Turkey criticized Kosovo's willingness to locate its Israel embassy in Jerusalem. And there was this comment from Nikola Selakovic, the foreign minister of Serbia. Quote, "We have invested serious efforts in our relations with Israel in recent years, and we are not happy with this decision. Israel's move will undoubtedly influence relations between Serbia and Israel." Now, we should note, of course, that Kosovo unilaterally declared independence from Serbia in 2008, a move which Serbia rejected. Well, joining us now in the studio for more is Alexander Nikolic, the Honorary Consul of the Republic of Serbia in Israel. And Alexander, thanks for joining us again. Why is Serbia so strongly critical, so against this Israel establishing relations with Kosovo?
Although what happened yesterday is by no means a surprise to anybody in Belgrade, it gives me no pleasure to ascertain that after so much invested in recent years in upgrading relations with Israel and especially with the Jewish world, I will give you only two examples of that: restitution law and law on a commemoration site from the World War II and the Holocaust, Staro Sajmište. What happened yesterday? Serbia treats Kosovo as its southern autonomous province according to its constitution, and it is willing to negotiate and to reach an agreement as any regular agreement that is based on mutually agreed upon basis, not anything unilaterally put on or under any kind of pressure. A Serbian delegation signed a paper on September the 4th in the White House not with Kosovo Albanians, expecting that the Israeli side, as already earlier today exposed by His Excellency Minister of Foreign Affairs Selakovic, that Israel will know how to avoid further circumstances out of that event. Unfortunately, we reached this point in which we are facing quite a fragile position, and I firmly believe that both sides will know to return as soon as possible to common interests such as cooperation in the fields of innovation, in the field of water management, and especially mutually declaring each other as most preferable nations, thus providing the exporters for both countries as more competitive.
Right. I mean, but does Serbia see this as a betrayal on Israel's side? Is that too strong a word, briefly?
Serbia and Serbian people refers to Jewish people in the state of Israel as sincere and deep friends, as a nation that suffered jointly during the World War II and the Holocaust, especially in the independent state of Croatia, a Nazi German puppet state over there. And therefore, Serbian side believe that Israeli will find a way how to deal with this very extremely sensitive constellation, avoiding harming Serbian
Right, okay,
feelings.
you did say that. Now, I want you to just listen to what Barat Bujala, he is a journalist and former member of the Kosovo parliament, had to say on this program yesterday.
They are a bit nervous about this, but it is not just Israel. I mean, Serbia didn't want like 2/3 of EU recognized Kosovo, like most of G7 countries recognized Kosovo, 2/3 of NATO countries recognized Kosovo. So Serbia, I mean, pretends to play a victim when some countries recognize Kosovo, but never forget, I mean, and your audience should never forget, Kosovo has some similar history with Serbia when it comes to to the war and to the persecution. Just 20 years ago, 1 million Kosovars were removed from Kosovo by Serbian army. So it is not to be believed what Serbia says when it comes to history of Kosovo. And it's not only Israel again. They pressured many countries, and if they convince some small countries, they declare this as a big victory.
And Alexander, we should note that almost 100 nations have granted diplomatic recognition to Kosovo. But of course, I want to give you the chance to respond to that comment.
18 countries during the last year have withdrawn their recognition of so-called Republic of Kosovo. No membership succeeded to Pristina authorities in any international organization recently. After that, having Israel being the first one on the other side is very painful for the Serbian side. What we heard previously is completely one-sided. And the most important thing is that both sides, Serbia and authorities in Pristina, shall sit down together, trying to develop solutions to reach a kind of agreement. Even in the Washington Accord, Serbian side is expecting what Pristina will fulfill, for example, rail tracks to be rebuilt from Pristina to Merdare, thus connecting Pristina and the rest of the province with Central Europe through Serbia, and not via Northern Corridor, Kosovska Mitrovica and Leposavić, thus jeopardizing the position of the Serbian state railways. So there are many smaller subjects such as Gazivode, water treatment to be discussed, but those are concrete things to be dealt with, those that could actually provide better life conditions.
But you understand, and you think Israel's move undermines those discussions?
Well, Serbia expected from Israel to be more patient, not, after 12 years, 11 months, 14 days, not following unprecedentedly American foreign policy. Serbia expected Israeli side to be a little bit more patient.
But clearly, you accept that it may have been under pressure from the administration, the prior administration, and that may have certainly been an influence in Israel's decision here.
Everybody in Belgrade is aware of that. Even Das of State, His Excellency Matthew Palmer, was present yesterday via Zoom from the Washington, D.C. So everybody is very much aware of that in Belgrade, but they still believe that Israel will support Serbian standoff and need to reach an commonly agreed upon agreement.
All right. Well, you've made your position clear. And Serbia has. We'll have to see what the response it will be moving forward in Jerusalem. Alexander Nikolic, the Honorary Consul of the Republic of Serbia in Israel. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you very much.
On I-24 News.